Hey, Sarah, thanks so much for joining us. So excited to have you and for you to take time from your very busy creative schedule. I want to just start because I've gotten the opportunity, I would say, maybe especially after this last year, of getting to know you, getting to know all of the wonderful things that you're up to a little bit more. But for our viewers that have not met you or have just heard about the legend, will you, will you share in just a couple of minutes kind of your background or how you got to where you are now?
Of course. And I just want to say also thank you for having me on the chat today. This is an absolute pleasure and delight. So thank you. Gosh, let's see. I think like a lot of people who are creative, I've always identified as creative. Specifically for me, my avenue of creativity has been writing. And so started off loving to write and grew up with this sort of weird dual frustration of having to do things that were not writing and also fighting my way through producing writing that was good. And so going through school, I was, obviously a huge nerd. I worked in libraries and was always looking for a way to combine the things that I loved into one thing so that I had less of that tension pulling on me, right? So looking for ways to really integrate what I loved in with everyday life and things that I had to do, like go to school and, get a job and all of that good stuff. So eventually graduated from college, got a job in marketing because I majored in English, and it was a little bit closer to what I think I wanted to be doing. I got to write a little bit and I got to be creative in my capacity as a marketer. But it still wasn't 100% what I wanted to do. And so finally, I got to a place where in my job, I had kind of hit a little bit of a ceiling, and I realized I was done having other people tell me what to do. And so I left my full-time job and I decided to kind of pursue what I wanted to do, and that was create the things I wanted to create full-time and get paid for it. And so I did that. Currently, my creative works include, I have a column in Forbes, and so I get to write for them as a contributor. I have two podcasts, the Right Now podcast, which is for aspiring writers. I have Girl in Space, which is a fictional podcast about a girl in space. It's kind of self-explanatory. And what else am I doing? I feel like I have some other projects too. I'm launching a course about how to podcast, but basically everything I do is what I want to be doing. And I'm just so grateful to have found a place where I can do that full time. And I've only just recently realized that I'm an entrepreneur, like within the last year and a half. So I'm like, oh, I guess I can embrace that part of my identity as well. But that's kind of the story of me in 2 minutes or less.
Oh, I love it. And, even with you kind of explaining or describing your story, like I know that you as a person, you're so giving and so willing and wanting to help other people that I just hear throughout your story, like how your journey as being a mentor and as, being mentored, but then becoming a mentor for people that are also kind of going through that similar journey. Do you find that in your industry, there's a lot of people kind of seeking mentorship, or that you're able to uh, find mentors that, or excuse me, mentees that are wanting that support?
Hmm. That's a really good question. I think a lot of creatives, so people who enjoy creating things, so writers, painters, dancers, all of that, a lot of that is very solitary work. And I think that a lot of people see that as, oh, this is something I need to trudge through on my own. I'm a writer in my little ivory tower, and I can't have anyone else in here with me. And that's absolutely not true.
Yeah.
I've always had my best growth personally and professionally when I'm working with someone solved, and them helping me solve problems and get to the place where I really need to go, helping me level up, if you will. So it's just it's so important to have that in your life, no matter who you are. And the thing is your mentor doesn't have to be someone in the same field as you. One of my very first mentors, Melissa Johnson, here in Sioux Falls, she's a business owner, and she enjoys creating, and she does create, and she paints and writes, but she also knows how to run a business. And I learned so much from her, specifically in things outside of my field of creative writing. And so it's so valuable to have that.
So what do you think is if it doesn't have to be the crossover in industry, what do you think is the key component for a mentor-mentee relationship? Or maybe a few. I guess it doesn't have to be one.
Just one, no. Yeah. For me, the biggest thing is, and I didn't realize this until I was already doing it and seeing the benefits of it, is finding a mentor who is where you want to be. So looking for someone as a mentee, looking for a mentor who is the place where you want to go, because they know how to get there, they've navigated it. Yeah. So if you're working with somebody who's maybe had success, but it's not the kind of success you're looking for, I'd encourage you to find a mentor who has seen the kind of success that you're looking for.
Oh, man. Yeah. With that, why don't you think mentoring is more common? Do you think people are having that hard time finding that right person that they're aspiring to be? Or what do you think?
Yeah, maybe so. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, what do you think that might be? Or why do you think that might be?
There's a lot of different reasons. For me, I was afraid to ask for help. I think a lot of us don't want to seem weak, especially women who already are trying to fight off seeming weak. Like asking for help makes me seem more weak. And, I was in marketing and then I was in tech for 5 years, and I didn't want to do anything that made me look like I couldn't handle what I was in, right? But this relationship with Melissa, who ended up becoming my mentor for several years and still is, we approached it as a relationship more than a, hey, will you please help me? And so we met for coffee. We found we enjoyed each other's presence. We were always taking notes like, oh, hey, that was a great point. Let me write that down in my notebook. And then eventually we were just like, are we mentoring each other? And it was just, so it was more of a realization than an asking for help thing. And that was exactly what I needed. So some people are afraid to ask for help. I think other people don't know that they need help. We live in a really individualistic culture, and that can be healthy in a lot of ways. But I think that, and you can do very well on your own. You can find success on your own, but I think you can find more success if you have someone helping you and if you are helping them in return, because it is really a reciprocal relationship, the mentor-mentee relationship. So I think that's another reason. And just, gosh, another thing is, I know that as an adult outside of college, it was very easy in college to make friends. I find that as an adult, it's really hard to make friends. Like it's
so true.
It's harder than dating. And a mentor is a very specific kind of friend. And so it's like, if 1% of the people you meet are potential friends, then 1% of those friends are maybe like a potential mentor. I don't know the math specifically, but I think that's one reason why it's so hard, is because you want to find someone you click with who also has seen that success that you're looking for. But I think you can find that person. I think that like draws like, and eventually you'll meet that person, and maybe you'll realize it's somebody you've known for years who has given you great advice and who has seen success, and you're like, oh, I just realized you've been mentoring me for the past 3 years. Thank you. So that's kind of the reasons that I think that it's so hard to find a good mentoring relationship.
I think that's really important, though, what you're saying, that a mentor relationship doesn't have to be really formal. It can be this informal thing that you might be experiencing, you just haven't identified it. So I think that'd be really interesting to kind of take a minute and look around and really think about the relationships you have with people and who might you already have an informal relationship with that you could potentially make something more formal. So I love that. So I'm going to ask kind of a question that maybe there's no good answer for. Who needs mentoring the most?
Let's see, who needs mentoring the most? That's a very interesting question, because my first instinct is to say absolutely everybody can benefit from mentoring. But when you ask who needs mentoring the most, yeah, I'm just going to stick with everybody needs mentoring the most. I mean, I know that's probably not the answer you were looking for.
No, I'm not looking, I know that sounds silly, I asked the question, but I'm really not looking for an answer. Um, it's so interesting. I agree. I think everyone needs mentoring. I think as we've had more and more of these conversations, it's interesting to think about the people, like the people who are willing to be mentored and are willing to grow from mentoring would probably have the greatest impact from that. But I agree with you. I think that everyone needs it.
And that's an interesting point too, is that
move forward with it.
yes. Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And so as a female entrepreneur, that now that you're able to self-identify with that, how do you think that female entrepreneurs in particular could really benefit from mentorship? And I know that you had kind of mentioned some of the feelings of not wanting to feel weak, but that's women in general, but how specifically maybe would female entrepreneurs benefit?
There is strength in community, and this is something, as an introvert and as a very lone wolf, isolated person most of my life, I didn't realize until probably just a few years ago, is how much strength there is in community. And women are so good at building community. And this is just something that I've realized even very recently. So there's strength in community, and there's strength in the idea that a rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah.
And if we can get to a point where we are, if there's people climbing the ladder behind us, where we are giving them a hand up instead of kicking them off the ladder, if we can get to a place where success is not a trophy, and it is instead a lifestyle or a habit or a community-oriented mindset, I think that is where we need to go. And I think that is a place that women in particular can take us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that we can take us there.
Yeah.
Is there anything you feel like is kind of a misunderstanding with mentorship that you wish more people knew once they were participating?
There is, and that is mentorship. When you're mentoring someone, it's an act of service and it's an act of love. And I learned that from my dad, who I think was my first mentor without me knowing it. He was a pastor, he's a minister, he's retired now, but everything he did was an act of service to someone else, whether it was reaching a hand out to help them, to give people something they needed, to help them move, whatever it was. And I really learned that from him, that mentoring is an act of service and an act of love. And as such, it is an act of servant leadership, which is something that I strive toward every day.
That's so fantastic. I have goosebumps from that, because I think with a mentor showing that act of service or love, the level of respect for the people that choose to mentor, and that mentor-mentee relationship, I think is fantastic. I mean, it truly is, like you're saying, it's a special type of friendship, a special bond. So that's awesome. So I guess my last question, is there anything else, anything in regards to mentorship or entrepreneurship for females in particular that you wanted to mention or share, or we didn't cover?
Yeah. A lot of times you don't know your own strength and you don't know your own success. And I think that imposter syndrome hits women especially hard, whether you've been told that you're not good enough growing up, whether you've been told that you can never be good enough, or that you're not as good, or that you're paid less, anything like that. A lot of us have that mentality, but I want to tell you, you are worthy, and you can be out there mentoring. No matter if you think you're successful or not, there are people out there who can learn from you, and there are so many women out there from whom you can learn in return. And so don't ever let yourself say, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not successful enough to be mentored or to mentor someone else, because you are.
That's wonderful advice. That is the perfect place to leave this interview. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time this morning to chat with us. And I can't wait for all of these wonderful people to get to meet you almost in person.
Almost.
And I know that you have a lot going on and you travel a lot, so hopefully some of them will actually get to meet you in person. So
I hope so. Lauren, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so delighted to be here and talk with you. This is just an absolute delight. So thank you again.